Most of her family and our family are still in West Seattle, though all of our immediate group is up in Bellingham area and love being up there. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to,
Yes.
Oh, the dogs. It was very interesting. Jim and I, we've sometimes stopped by the house, just with different family events. About 3 years ago, we stopped by the house, and Mary was here. First time I'd actually met Mary. She was here many years ago when I stopped by, but she and her sister were off somewhere or something. Anyway, we stopped by, and we were down at the bottom of the driveway, and Mary comes down the driveway with a beautiful St. Bernard that they have. Anyway, when she got to the bottom of the driveway, we immediately got to talking, and I said, by the way, she looks exactly like the German, or the St. Bernard that we brought back from Germany. Our first family dog was a St. Bernard, and we've compared the pictures since, and they're a very white, they have lots of white on them, which is unusual for a St. Bernard, but it literally, Judy looks just like Mary's St. Bernard. So we discovered many things that even though we were a full generation or more of families separated in the house, the Otakirks were after us in many years here, that all these similarities kept coming up, and so anyway, that was one of them. My folks loved St. Bernards, and we had many while we were here. So I'll turn back over to you.
Jack.
Thank you.
Oh, boy.
We need to say what we did with the dark room.
Oh, the dark room. Sorry, really quickly. There's been a mystery in the home as far as who installed a urinal in the small, what used to be a laundry room that became your dark room. And my dad, military, I guess, I don't know what it was, but there were two big bathrooms up there and then that small room, and he just thought the back end of the room by the window there was a perfect spot for he and the boys to do what we needed to do. So the urinal came from my dad.
Thank you, Jack. Wow. Think about it. If these walls could talk, what's happening today? Now we're 3 down, 2 to go, plus we have a bonus, and we're running a little long here, but we're moving. Next is the Otakirks. Who is the... Bill, you going to do this?
Oh, yeah. Here, let me get you up yet.
So this is like the Oscars, you don't want to cut them off.
That's right. I don't want you to come this too far. Yeah, over here. That's great.
We had, at the time we bought this house, we owned a little grocery store up at 39th and Kenyon, Haywood Foods. And about 6 months before that, I bought the Lincoln Park grocery store down by Lincoln Park. And we would open up the store at Gaywood, or I would open it up at 7 in the morning, and my wife would come up about 8:30. Then I'd walk down here to Lincoln Park Grocery to open it at 9. And one morning I was walking down, and there was a man in the front yard here, and he had a for sale sign by owner on it. And I stopped, and my wife has been in West Seattle since first grade and went to Gaywood High School and junior high here and West Seattle High. And she always loved this house. She always showed me this house. And she just thought this was the greatest house. So I'm walking down here one morning, and there's that sign out there, and Jack Frost is out there. And I said, I see you got your house for sale. And he says, yeah. He said, would you like to see it? And I says, well, I can't now. I got a store to open, but yeah, I'd like to bring my wife back and look at it. And he said, fine. I can't remember the exact time, but probably real soon thereafter, I brought her back, and we looked at it. And of course, my wife fell in love with it, and I did too. It was a beautiful house. But at the time, we had, just to put things in perspective, we had a little house at about 40th and Kenyon, and I think I paid about $10,000 for that house, which was the going price for houses at that time. and my payment was $105 a month. So we come down here and we talked to Jack, and he was asking $39,000 for it. Well, that's a real bargain today. Back then, that was 3-4 times what houses was going for. And so we worked it all out, and I had the two little businesses going, and things were going pretty good. So I was way over my head, but I stuck my neck out, and I agreed to pay the $39,000. And my house payment went from 105 to just a little over 300, which was 3 times what I was. And I was kind of out at the end of a plank throwing it off behind me. but we made it work, and that's how we got here. Now, I had 4 children, 2 of which are here today, Lisa and Scott. And they went through most of their school here, lived here during their formative years, and it was great. I couldn't have been happier. Now, for some of the funny things that happened here, right where that door going into the kitchen is now, there was not a door there, there was a wall. And right at the bottom of the door was a great big a heat duct. And on Christmas Eve, we were all sitting around here, there was a Christmas tree over in the corner. And so it was getting cold, so we turned on the heat. Well, the heat starts coming up through that duct, and at that time, that half of the basement was higher than this half, and it was a real rough floor, and we had problems with rats and mice. And they turned on the heat, and all of a sudden the rat sticks his head out of the vent. And we had a cat named Valentine. And Valentine is over against the wall, lined up with the vent, and I'm on this side with the broom. And the rat comes and gets so hot, he finally runs out. Valentine jumps for the rat. I bring my broom down and hit Valentine on top of the cat. Didn't hurt the cat, but the rat ran over the Christmas tree, and my brother-in-law finally got a broom and hit him from underneath the stereo and killed him, and we took him outside. Anyway.
Bill, up to you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then the other thing that was really kind of sad and weird, my wife and I had an appointment, and I've told this story before, and I can't remember what the appointment was for, but it was important that we'd be there on time. And we were running a little late, and we had a little dachshund dog. And the dachshund dog was really rather old. It was probably should have been euthanized about that time, but you know how you hold off. And so we had our car parked diagonally right to the driveway there, and we ran out and got in the car, and I backed it up, and I heard clunk, clunk, clunk. I looked out, and I ran over my little dog. Aww. And over here beside the house, we had a garbage shed with doors on it. And we were running late, I couldn't do anything, the kids would be coming home real quick. And so I told Carol, I'm just going to put it on the garbage can, and I'll take care of it when we come back. So I picked up the little dog, and I put him in the garbage can, closed the doors, and went. Guess what? When we came back, the garbage men had been here. So, I don't know what the garbage man thought of us, but probably. And then, of course, my kids, they finished high school, and they all moved out, and there's Mom and I in this big old house. So, it was time. We decided it was time to sell it. We did. But it was a lot of fun, a lot of good memories. I have told people of 20 years, but I think I must have been a little short of that. I used to call it my ferry boat, because we'd go down on the ferry boat, and the ferry, these old ferry boats, they would have a painting crew. Maybe it's only a 2-man crew, but they'd start painting somewhere, and they'd paint all the way around the boat, all the way around. By the time they got to back to where they started, it was time to paint again. You know, and that's the way this house was. Change the color. I'd start over on that side, and I might paint two floors, and then the bottom floor that year. Next year I'd start over here, and maybe 1 floor, and then another floor, and then over here. By the time I got around to the other side again, it was time to paint again. It was a lot of work, but it was fun, and well worth it.
third of Bill and Carol's 4 children. And just a few things I remember. There used to be a big madrona tree right here at the corner of the house, and I was it Scott, you and Mark, or you, I don't know who did it. Somebody put a big rope swing, or maybe the Frost.
It was here.
Okay, well, I remember being, because I was 8 when I moved in here, and I remember my big brothers, they were so brave, and they would pull that rope up, and would you go up in the tree, or would you
We
jump from
go
the
up
porch?
in the tree and jump out.
And they would jump out, and that swing literally went all over the front yard. I mean, you felt like you were flying and then come back.
We'd swing around and we would time it just right so that we would have our feet and kick off the tree when we came back.
Well,
So we could
I
go
was
back
watching
with
this,
it.
taking notes, and at some point I got big enough and brave enough to try it. It was such a thrill. So that's one great memory. Lots of great memories, and yes.
It was my father apparently that put up a swing.
Oh, was it?
When I was a little kid living here.
And well, that madrona tree no longer is here.
Right.
And I had written a story on the large branch that held the madrona, held the tree. And
I remember seeing something scarred into the tree.
Yes,
Yes.
that was a story I wrote.
I
What
I
was
spent a
it?
lot of time up on that branch.
Yeah.
And I can add to this story is Sally, who is not here, is the youngest, just
Yeah.
after Lisa. And Sally was the most timid about getting on the swing. Mark and I, we were little, buccaneers, just
Yeah.
swinging around on that thing. But finally,
Come up here, Scott.
okay, I'll just, as a kind of an anecdote to your story.
Yeah.
Sally, we finally coerced her. He says, "You can do it, Sally. You can do it. You can do it." She goes, "Okay." But she was, it took a long time to get to this point. So she get her, and we showed her how we do it. We shove off, come around. So she said, "Okay, I'll do it." So I go, "Oh, we got her to do it. Look how brave she's being." So she got out there, she pushed off, and right when she got to the furthest extension that the swing could go, it broke and she fell into
She sort of flew.
She kind of flew. So I guess all of her expectations were met. She expected it and she got it. So she didn't do that again. But Mark and I tied it back up and we were off again. So.
Yeah? When I was growing up here, I was such a tomboy. When I was about 12, 13, 14, something like that, I would climb up on the roof.
Yes, we did that.
Yeah. And I'd go over there to where that madrona was,
Yeah.
and I'd jump and catch a branch.
I didn't.
There were 2 ways to get down. You could get down the madrona, or there was a dogwood tree out
Yes.
there. Uh-huh. Yeah, I used to get down that way too.
Nothing on you.
So the madrona, everybody's relating to the madrona, and then I can remember upstairs that we would tear around in circles playing tag, just tearing in circles. And then when I learned to do gymnastics, that was a balance beam. We'd walk around up there. Yeah. But my husband, Tim, him and I, we got married in the front yard in 1981. And came back here last summer, and when you guys first opened, and we celebrated our wedding anniversary. And I don't know how many people can say they got married in the house, and 32 years later could come back and stay there as a guest. Pretty special. And then one last rat story, because I don't know if there was, I guess this is just part of old houses. I was pregnant with my first child. My father had taken my 2 brothers, and the 3 of them, and my husband, and they went on a fishing rafting trip.
microphone.
Is this better?
Yeah.
So my dad took my husband and my brothers on a fishing trip, left me and my mom. I came and spent the night with my mom. I was pregnant, and we were is it the Harper room now?
Yeah.
It's like on that side, and then my bedroom was over there. So we were sleeping in the room in between where the flat roof goes out, and it was my mom and dad's bedroom at the time. It was just my mom and I, and she liked to sleep with the windows open, and we're tucking into bed, and the window was open, and I said, "Hey, Mom, let's shut that window." And she said, "Oh no, I like to sleep with that window open. We like the fresh air." I go, "Well, shut it a little bit." So we got it to about that, just a little bit open. And I'm not kidding, in the middle of the night, I woke up, I had this feeling that something was watching me, and I laid down and I opened my eyes, and about 6 feet in front of me, right at level with the windowsill, there's a rat on the windowsill, with that little window open this much, and my cat, Valentine, on the other side with her hold of the rat's tail. So the rat's leaning towards me, and I'm like, Mom, wake up, there's a rat. She thinks I'm crazy. She sees it. She goes and grabs a broom, smacks that rat, but scared the cat. The rat dropped in and ran under the bed. And my mom and I are screaming and up on the bed. And I have to tell you, we got that broom and we beat the holy hell out of it. We beat that rat until it was literally staggering. Went over to and we put a garbage can over the top of it. We slid a little paper under it. And I opened the window, Mom, and we threw this rat with the garbage can out on the flat part and shut the window and yeah. So there we go.
Thank you, Lisa. Well, now we're here, we're heading home. Actually, we've been at home the whole time. Who of you wants to come up and talk?
I guess we'll let Mary.
This is the Hayes family, been here 27 years. And welcome Mary again.
Thank you.
Set the record.
Sure. Yeah, so we've been here 27 years and I'm 29. So this is the house that I remember entirely. And when I grew up here, it's amazing to hear these stories because there are things that are the same even years later. And so the madrona tree with the tree swing was one of my sister's favorites. I was a little too young, and she would swing out, and it was much beloved until my cousin broke his arm on it, and then I don't know how much longer it stayed there, but eventually the tree had to be cut down because it was gonna fall. So the stump of the tree was in the front yard for years and years, and that's where I played. I played in the stump of the tree, and it was, there was fairies and trolls and all that kind of good stuff. My mom likes to say that one of the things she likes about the house is that her children never had to leave when we were kids, and that was true. We never did. Tree climbing was a big deal, although I was not as brave as you are, Peggy. I probably only got this high off the ground, certainly not 3 stories. But yeah, I mean, just always in the trees, always in the yard. We used to camp out, just sleep in the front yard in the summers with blankets. And just, it was like living in a park. It was just, people always came here. Holidays were always here. I have a big extended family. My mom is the youngest of 5, and they all live in Seattle, and she has 27 first cousins, 24 of whom all live in Seattle. And so, family gatherings were always here. Christmas tree there, Easter egg hunt in the front and backyard. We had to wait inside. Couldn't be near the windows to see where the eggs were going. And I remember just that taking so long. And then, because we were old school, we had the eggs with the candy, but also the hard-boiled eggs. And inevitably, during tag in the summer, you'd step on a hard-boiled egg about 1 month old, and that was pretty gross. So then the second part that I guess was maybe a little different from everyone else is really what you're seeing now, the house as it is, didn't happen until I was almost high school age. But we started the remodel in '94. So basically, we also grew up in a construction zone. The basement, when my parents bought the house, my dad completely made it an apartment. It's a self-sufficient apartment. So the 4 of us lived down there exclusively for 2 years, and everything up here was torn down to studs. You can see some of the pictures in the kitchen of, just all the original woodwork was taken down, but saved so that it could be stripped and restained. The floors were not salvageable, unfortunately, but they were used to make these extra beams. So those are the original floorboards. And just every effort to maintain the house and maintain its integrity. And we just lived down there exclusively for 2 years, and then we had family coming to visit. We didn't have anywhere to put them, so we rushed and finished the bedrooms, and we slept upstairs,
this was construction, and then kitchen and living room and laundry were downstairs. So we lived that way for a while, and slowly this was finished. And then the last kind of details were put on the outside when my sister and brother-in-law got married here 5 years ago. So we also had a wedding here, which was great. I have an earthquake story that is, it kind of ties to yours, Jack. You know, most of us, I'm sure, remember the big earthquake about, what was it, like 12 years ago now, around Mardi Gras. I was learning how to drive at the time, and my dad was teaching me how to parallel park. We were just up in, near White Center, and so I'm parallel parking and doing all right at it, I think. And we come home, and we come in, and these, actually many of those plates and that picture, they're on the ground. Some of these are on the ground. There's a hairdryer upstairs that's fallen, it's on. Our dog was locked in the kitchen, and the kitchen was the only area in the house that was untouched. It was like, just this back window was open. The dog happened to look a lot like that. And we came in and we thought, oh my gosh, someone has broken into our house, call 911. So my dad called 911, and he said, someone's broken in, the window's open, there's stuff broken, and the guy on the phone said, sir, unless there's anything missing, I think that you and your daughter are the only people in Seattle that didn't feel the earthquake. So it still held up though, as you said. It was amazing. Another memory I have from when we were kids is actually the house across the street caught fire, and we were watching it. We were watching the flames over the trees, and I remember someone told me that it was a big, it was obviously a big deal, but that it was a big, big deal because we had a TV here in the corner, and we turned it on, and we were watching it on the TV, and we were watching it across the street as it happened. Yeah, it was pretty wild. Yeah, I think that.
Hey Mary,
yes?
was there a laundry chute? Did there used to be a laundry chute in the kitchen that went down in the basement?
Oh God, I wish there was a laundry chute.
No.
I begged for an elevator carrying the laundry from the top floor to the bottom floor. I also begged for a dark room for years. Didn't happen.
There was a laundry chute.
I don't know.
It dropped down over the utility sinks in the old
Yeah.
part of the basement by the furnace.
I don't remember.
At the back of the house?
Yeah.
It would be like, yeah, it was in the kitchen, you drop it in the kitchen, and I remember it was in this old cement part. It would open up.
I think there
Maybe,
was.
yeah.
Wait, I don't remember that. Did you must have blocked it off that
I think
time.
there was. My dad put in all the, of course, there was nothing in the kitchen except the porcelain sink. Like kitchens used to be. The bathroom we removed. My dad did, of course, Naughty Pine was the wood of the day, but did cabinetry all around the kitchen. I think he might have just either ignored or cut off a chute that was there at one point. Because I do recall the bins downstairs in the back of the basement had a chute coming down, I think.
Yeah, I remember because it looked like a drawer and you pulled it down. It kind of went like that.
It could have come from the bathroom upstairs, I think even. But it was, yeah.
I do remember it because I think Mark went down it.
But Mary, I just want to say, it's so great that you've had this, and it's so great meeting the former residents of this, and your family has resurrected and restored all of our dreams. It's just, anybody that's lived here has this memory of this place, and you've really resurrected it beyond my wildest imagination. I just want to thank you and your family for maintaining all of our dreams.
That was definitely due to my parents. That's great. Okay, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow. We could go on for a long time. As good as all of this has been, I've got a bonus for you. We have a bonus for you. Those of you who were at last year's home tour know that this is going to be a treat. We have with us, and Terry, it's time to come in. And come on up here, Greg. We have Greg Lang from the King County Archives. I'm thinking over here so that it's not backlit.
Okay.
and maybe kind of angled in a little bit. We've got an easel for you.
Oh, great.
Last year really was the formula being set for this kind of an event for us. We've done home tours in the past, but this really evolved into something special when not only we heard from Greg Nichols about the history of the home, but we had put display panels all around the home to talk about all of the families who had lived in the home since it was built in 1913. Well, then we have Greg Lang, who we thought was going to talk about how to look up the history of your own home. Greg Lang is a secret weapon. He came in and told us about all the people who owned the land before the house was built. I can't wait to hear what Greg has for us today. Would you please welcome Greg Lang of King County Archives.
It's great to be set up like that, Clay. The high expectations here
Yeah.
to finalize this. But it's always fun to kind of delve into the history of a piece of land, a dot on a piece of the land, just to kind of delve into all these layers that go back to the beginning of time. And that's what I did. But before I do that, let me just give like 60 seconds on how to do a history of your house, since that's kind of what I was supposed to do. I put together a brochure, a flyer, right here on people that want to do a basic, get kind of 10 steps to do a history of your house and some of the basic information that's available here. We are really incredibly fortunate in this county with the amount of resources that we have to do property history and start researching the individuals who lived here and existed here and were residents here in this town and in this county. And so there are some great records going all the way back to when the county was first established in the 1850s. Very few places in the United States have the amount of records that we have here, so it's really fortunate. And so what I did on this property, I just went from the beginning of time when the federal government took it over from the Native Americans and went all the way forward. And you can literally get documents and deeds to the entire history of the property and all the sales. So I have the Clarks and the Harpers and everybody who bought the property. I have their deeds in this booklet here, going all the way back to before the house was built. So the kind of title of this day is "If the Walls Could Talk." Well, I'm going to try to get the dirt to talk a little bit. So it starts out in 1862, and there was a crew of 3 surveyors that were probably within 4 or 5 blocks of here. So that's as close as I was able to get people actually walking across this land, within 4 or 5 blocks. And they were surveying the General Land Office survey. So this is the first survey that had to be done before you could actually start settling and homesteading the property. And that was done in 1862. And I actually got their field notes, and they went, it was from September 19th to 25th of 1862. And they were always commenting on steep hills that they had to cross over, right? Because they had to go straight lines. They couldn't go up the side of a hill. They had to go straight up the hill because they were doing north, south, east, west lines. And in this general vicinity, it seemed like there was nothing, there was a number of cedar trees. So I think there was a grove of cedar in this general area. There was fir trees, of course, too, but there were some cedar trees. And there was a creek that was nearby. Unfortunately, I don't have these on display, so I'll just kind of show you. So this is right here. This is the original map that was done after that 1862 survey, and you see the green square there. That's where this property is. It's a 40-acre tract, is what is denoted right there. And if you see just immediately to the north, there's this stream, and it must have been a fairly substantial one. And I think it ended right around Loman Park, or maybe just a little bit south of that. And they were commenting that it was 4 feet wide at at Puget Sound. So it was a fairly substantial, in September, after the summer, it was a fairly substantial stream. So that was the one interesting thing about that, and these guys complaining about these steep hills that they had to cross. So it wasn't for another 7 years before the first individual who actually bought this area that I have highlighted in green. His name was George Olay, and he got a 40-acre tract, which is what that is. And 40 acres, just to give you an idea, is 5 blocks by 5 blocks. So it would be, in this area, it would cover from, if Myrtle existed on the north side, it would be where Myrtle is down to Webster, and from California to 39. So that's the area that he homesteaded. Well, and he didn't really homestead it. You had the option to buy property if you wanted to. And so he got that 40 acres for $50. $1.25 an acre.
Wow.
And George Olay was a French Canadian. And the interesting thing, just as a sideline, the interesting thing is from about 1811 to 1847, the speaking language in this area, in the Pacific Northwest, was French. That was, it was all the fur traders that were here, the Hudson's Bay Company. The officers of Hudson's Bay were English, but all the workers were French. So the main language was French, and most of the French were French Canadians. George Olay was born in Montreal. There might be a possibility that his family might have come out here as a fur trader, worked for the Hudson's Bay, but I only did this research in a couple of weeks, so I didn't have a chance to kind of follow that tract. So he got in 1869. Olay was the first settler in Burien. So he basically got Burien started, and he homesteaded that area down there. Okay. So then, in 1871, George Olay sells the property in June of 71 to a James McNaught. Now, James McNaught was an attorney, so this is the beginning of the speculators arriving in this area. He was an attorney, and he was just picking up land as he found it. And it was in June of 1871, and George didn't make much money. As a matter of fact, he lost some money. He bought the property for $40, the 40 acres, $1 an acre. James McNaught, not too many people know about him, but he was really influential in the Seattle area. He was one of the incorporators of the Seattle Walla Walla Railroad Company, which was the first railroad that was built from Seattle around Lake Washington to the coal mines on the east side. And then during the 1880s and 1890s, he was basically the eyes, ears, and voice of the Northern Pacific Railroad Company. He was kind of the local representative for the Northern Pacific Railroad Company, which was the first major railroad that arrived here in Puget Sound. And so and then when things really, crises broke out, the officers from back east would come out. And one reason why I don't think he got much recognition was because it was a love-hate relationship with the railroad companies. The railroad companies had a monopoly, and so whenever bad things was happening relating to the locals getting all riled up about the railroads, James McNaught would have to be there giving a presentation and defending the railroad company. James McNaught didn't hold on to the property very long. He just held on to it for a month. He sold to a gentleman by the name of Philo Remington. Now, he made a hefty profit. He bought it for $40.